Today, we look back at the MASH actors who have passed away or faced serious legal troubles, and the stories behind their final chapters. Brace up, and let's go on a ride. When MASH premiered on CBS in September 1972, few could have predicted it would become one of the most successful television series of all time. Based on the 1,970 film of the same name, the show followed the 4,077th Mobile Army Surgical Hospital during the Korean War. For 11 seasons and 256 episodes, viewers watched as talented surgeons and support staff used humor, pranks, and camaraderie to cope with the brutal realities of war just 3 miles from the front lines. The series masterfully balanced laugh-out-loud comedy with profound anti-war messaging and genuine human drama. Its finale in 1983 became the most-watched television episode in American history at that time, with over 105 million viewers. MASH wasn't just a show, it was a cultural phenomenon that redefined what television could accomplish. Number 1. McLean Stevenson. The jovial, whiskey-loving Lieutenant Colonel Henry Blake won the hearts of viewers with his fatherly presence and reluctant authority at the 4,077th, but the character's shocking departure mirrored the tragic twist that would come for the actor who portrayed him. McLean Stevenson's unexpected exit from MAS times H in Season 3 was just the beginning of a life marked by professional regrets and, ultimately, an untimely demise. Born in Normal, Illinois, in 1927, Stevenson brought a warm, everyman quality to Henry Blake. A natural comedian with impeccable timing, he embodied the reluctant military man thrust into leadership during wartime. His chemistry with the ensemble cast, particularly his fatherly relationship with Radar O'Reilly and his constant battles with Major Frank Burns, made him an instant fan favorite during the show's first 3 seasons. Stevenson's portrayal of Colonel Blake reached legendary status with one of television's most shocking moments. In the Season 3 finale, Abyssinia, Henry, viewers watched as Blake received his discharge papers and said emotional goodbyes to the 4,077th family. The episode's gut-wrenching final scene, where Radar announces that Henry's plane had been shot down with no survivors, was kept secret from most of the cast until filming. The genuine shock and tears captured on camera created a watershed moment in television history, showing that even a comedy could deliver devastating emotional impact. On the 15th of February 1996, Stevenson suffered a heart attack at the age of 68 while undergoing bladder surgery at Encino Tarzana Regional Medical Center in California. Despite doctors' efforts to revive him, Stevenson was pronounced dead shortly thereafter. The news sent shockwaves through the entertainment community and devastated MAS times H fans worldwide. According to those close to him, Stevenson had been in relatively good health prior to the surgery, making his passing all the more unexpected. What made Stevenson's death particularly poignant was the parallel to his character's tragic end on the show. Many fans couldn't help but note the eerie similarity both Henry Blake and the man who portrayed him were taken too soon, leaving behind unfinished journeys. After leaving MASH in 1975, Stevenson never found another role that matched the significance of Henry Blake, later admitting he regretted leaving the show. In interviews, he had often expressed how special his time on MASH had, been describing the cast as family. His memorial service was attended by numerous MAS times H cast members, including Alan Alda, Loretta Swit, and Gary Berghoff. His former colleagues spoke movingly about his warmth and humor behind the scenes. As Wayne Rogers, who played Trapper John, reportedly said at the service, "Mac made everyone feel like his best friend. That wasn't acting. That was who he was." But what few realized was that another beloved cast member would soon follow a similar path. Number 2, Larry Linville. As the pompous, by-the-book Major Frank Burns, Larry Linville created one of television's most memorable antagonists, a character audiences loved to hate, Yet, behind the brilliantly portrayed neurotic surgeon lay an actor of remarkable depth and kindness, whose life would be cut short by unexpected illness. What happened? Let's find out. Born in Ojai, California, in 1939, Linville was a classically trained actor who studied at the Royal Academy of Dramatic Arts in London. Despite his serious theatrical background, he found his calling playing the insecure, rule-obsessed Frank Burns, whose failed romance with Margaret Hot Lips Houlihan and constant humiliation at the hands of Hawkeye Pierce and Trapper John made him the perfect foil for the show's anti-authoritarian heroes. Linville appeared in the first 5 seasons of MAS x H, departing in 1977 when he felt he had taken the character as far as he could. On the set, Linville was known as the polar opposite of his character, generous, thoughtful, and universally liked by the cast and crew. His commitment to the role was legendary. He would often deliberately isolate himself from the other actors to maintain Frank's outsider status. Alda once remarked that Linville deserved an Emmy for making such an unlikable character so compelling, noting, "Larry gave Frank Burns a humanity beneath the hysteria and insecurity." In April 2000, after battling pneumonia following lung cancer surgery, Linville passed away at Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center in New York City. He was 60 years old. The actor had been dealing with health issues for several years, having undergone surgery in 1998 to remove part of his lung after cancer was discovered. According to his family, complications arose unexpectedly during his recovery, and despite receiving top medical care, his condition deteriorated rapidly. The news of Linville's death hit the MAS x H community especially hard, coming just 4 years after McLean Stevenson's passing. Cast members expressed shock and profound sadness at losing another member of their television family. Mike Farrell, who played B.J. Honeycutt, released a statement calling Linville a superb actor who created a character of remarkable depth despite being written as two-dimensional. Loretta Swit, who played Margaret Houlihan, Frank's love interest on the show, reportedly said, "Working with Larry was pure joy. He found the humanity in a character that could have been just a caricature." What many fans didn't know was that Linville had maintained close friendships with several cast members long after leaving the show. He often participated in MASH reunions and conventions, where he delighted fans with his warmth and humor qualities that stood in stark contrast to the character he had portrayed so memorably. His legacy lives on through Frank Burns, a character that continues to entertain new generations of viewers, discovering MASH through streaming platforms and reruns. But as the millennium turned, another pillar of the 4077th would face his final battle. Number 3. Wayne Rogers. The mischievous, martini-drinking surgeon, Captain Trapper John McIntyre, brought a roguish charm to the early seasons of MASH. Yet, few viewers realized that the man behind the character would go on to build a business empire before his own final chapter would close. Wayne Rogers' death marked another profound loss for the MASH family, but his journey after leaving the 4077th proves just as fascinating as his time on the legendary show. Born in Birmingham, Alabama in 1933, Rogers brought natural charisma and sharp wit to the role of Trapper John. A Princeton graduate with a history degree, Rogers had a keen intelligence that informed his portrayal of the skilled surgeon who served as Hawkeye's partner in crime during the show's first 3 seasons. His chemistry with Alda created the foundational relationship that defined MAS x H's early years, with their pranks against Frank Burns and flirtations with the nurses providing some of the show's most memorable moments. Rogers famously left MAS x H after the 3rd season due to contract disputes and concerns about his character being overshadowed by Alda's Hawkeye. Though many actors might have faded into obscurity after leaving such a successful show, Rogers reinvented himself as a financial guru and business investor. He became a successful money manager, appeared regularly as a financial expert on Fox News, and built a diverse portfolio of businesses ranging from real estate to a wedding dress company. This second career showed dimensions to Rogers that many fans never suspected existed behind his carefree Trapper John persona. On the 31st of December 2015, New Year's Eve, Rogers passed away from complications due to pneumonia in Los Angeles, California. He was 82 years old. According to his family, Rogers had been hospitalized several days earlier after his condition deteriorated. His wife of 27 years, Amy Hirsch Rogers, was by his side. The timing of his death, on the cusp of a new year, added a poignant note to the loss of a man who had successfully navigated so many life transitions. The MAS/H community mourned Rogers deeply, with tributes pouring in from his former castmates. Alda tweeted, "Wayne Rogers was a wonderful man, a gifted actor, and a good friend. We will miss him." Loretta Swit released a statement saying, "Wayne was smart, funny, and one of the most generous friends I've ever known." What many found touching was how Rogers, despite leaving the show early and occasionally expressing frustration with his experience, never harbored resentment and maintained warm relationships with many cast members throughout his life. A memorial service held in Los Angeles brought together former MASH actors, business associates, and family members who shared stories of Rogers' humor, intelligence, and loyalty. Perhaps most moving were accounts of Rogers' philanthropic work, much of which he had kept private. As Mike Farrell noted in his eulogy, Wayne approached charity the way he approached life, with intelligence, commitment, and zero desire for recognition. But while the MASH family was still processing this loss, another beloved member would soon face his final days. Number 4. Harry Morgan. Colonel Sherman Potter arrived at the 4077th in Season 4 as the new commanding officer, bringing military discipline tempered with fatherly wisdom. The character quickly became the moral center of the show, but few realized the rich career Harry Morgan had built before MAS/H, or the personal struggles he would face in his final years. How did this beloved actor's remarkable journey come to an end? Born Harry Bratsburg in Detroit in 1915, Morgan had already enjoyed a prolific career spanning decades before joining MASH. With over 100 film credits to his name, including classics like High Noon and The Oxbow Incident, Morgan was a respected character actor when he first appeared on MASH as the deranged General Steele in a single episode. He so impressed producers that he was brought back as Colonel Potter, the role that would define his legacy. Morgan appeared in 8 seasons of MAS/H and later starred in the spin-off series After MASH. Morgan's portrayal of Colonel Potter earned him an Emmy Award in 1980 and the enduring affection of viewers worldwide. He brought depth to the character through small, personal touches: Potter's love for his wife Mildred, his painting hobby, his horse Sophie, and his colorful, old-fashioned expressions. Behind the scenes, younger cast members often sought Morgan's advice, mirroring the mentoring relationship his character had with the doctors and nurses under his command. Alda once called Morgan the glue that held our cast together after the early departures. On the 7th of December, 2011, Morgan passed away peacefully in his sleep at his home in Los Angeles at the age of 96. According to his son, Charles Morgan, the actor had been dealing with pneumonia in the weeks before his death. His family released a statement saying he was surrounded by loved ones in his final hours. Morgan's advanced age meant his death, while deeply saddening, came after a full life that spanned nearly a century of American entertainment history. The loss of Morgan represented the end of an era for MAS/H fans. As the oldest member of the main cast, he had brought gravitas and historical perspective to both the show and reunions that followed. Mike Farrell, who played B.J. Honeycutt, shared a moving tribute. Harry was a wonderful man, an impeccable professional, and a dear friend. His Colonel Potter was the heart and conscience of the 4077th. Loretta Swit echoed these sentiments, noting that working with Harry was like taking a master class in acting every single day. What many didn't know was that Morgan had faced personal tragedy in his later years. In 1997, he was arrested after a physical altercation with his wife, Barbara. Though charges were eventually dropped after he completed a counseling program, the incident revealed the private struggles even beloved public figures may face. Friends attributed the uncharacteristic behavior to depression and grief following the death of his first wife years earlier. Morgan himself later spoke candidly about the importance of mental health awareness for seniors. A memorial service at Los Angeles' Directors Guild featured speeches from MAS Times H cast, members and Hollywood legends like Clint Eastwood, with whom Morgan had worked in several films. The ceremony included military honors in recognition of Morgan's real-life service in the U.S. Army during World War II, a background that had informed his authentic portrayal of Colonel Potter. But as one veteran of the 4077th was laid to rest, another beloved character actor from the series would soon face his own final chapter. Number 5. William Christopher. As the gentle, sometimes fumbling Father Francis Mulcahy, William Christopher brought spiritual comfort to the 4077th, while delivering some of the show's most profound moments of humanity. His character reminded viewers that even in war, faith and compassion endure. But Christopher's own final battle would come decades after the series concluded, challenging him in ways his priestly character might have recognized all too well. Born in Evanston, Illinois in 1932, Christopher was a classically trained actor who studied at Wesleyan University. He brought a delicate sensitivity to Father Mulcahy, the Catholic chaplain who struggled to find his place in a MASH unit where his spiritual services were often overlooked amid the urgent medical crises. Christopher appeared in nearly every episode of the series' 11-season run, gradually developing Mulcahy from a background character into an essential part of the ensemble with his own compelling storylines. On set, Christopher was known for his meticulous preparation and gentle demeanor. Unlike many actors who resisted script changes, he worked closely with writers to ensure Father Mulcahy's religious aspects were portrayed respectfully and accurately. Despite not being Catholic himself, his dedication extended to learning sign language for storylines involving Mulcahy's work with the local deaf community, a subplot that became one of the character's defining attributes and showcased Christopher's commitment to authentic representation. On the 31st of December 2016, exactly 1 year to the day after Wayne Rogers' passing, William Christopher died at his home in Pasadena, California. He was 84 years old. According to his son, John Christopher, the actor had been diagnosed with small cell carcinoma, a form of lung cancer, approximately 18 months earlier. Despite aggressive treatment, the cancer eventually spread. His family reported that he died peacefully, with his wife, Barbara, his partner of over 60 years, by his side. The timing of Christopher's death struck many as a somber coincidence. 2 MAS Times H stars passing on consecutive New Year's Eves. Alan Alda expressed this sentiment in his public tribute. His kind strength, his grace and gentle humor weren't acting. They were Bill. Loretta Swit described Christopher as the most genuinely innocent man I ever knew, while Mike Farrell noted that Christopher brought the same compassion to his real life that Father Mulcahy showed on screen. What made Christopher's life story particularly moving was his decades-long advocacy for autism awareness. His son, Ned, was diagnosed with autism in the 1,970 seconds, when public understanding of the condition was minimal. While starring on MAS Times H, Christopher and his wife worked tirelessly to improve educational opportunities for children with autism. He co-authored a book, Mixed Blessings, about raising an autistic child, and frequently used his celebrity status to promote awareness and research funding. A memorial service held at All Saints Episcopal Church in Pasadena brought together Christopher's family, former castmates, and many families touched by his autism advocacy. Rather than focusing solely on his acting career, speakers highlighted how Christopher had channeled Father Mulcahy's compassion into real-world change. The service concluded with a performance of Dona Nobis Pacem, Grant Us Peace, a hymn that Christopher had once performed in a memorable MASH episode. But as the MASH family mourned this loss, another talented cast member was already facing serious health challenges. Number 6. David Ogden Stiers. As the aristocratic, Boston-bred Major Charles Emerson Winchester III, David Ogden Stiers brought intellectual heft and unexpected depth to the later seasons of MAS Times H. His character's journey from pompous antagonist to respected colleague showcased Stiers' remarkable range, but the actor's private nature meant that even his final battle was fought largely away from the public eye. How did this commanding presence meet his end? Born in Peoria, Illinois, in 1942, Stiers was classically trained at Juilliard and brought Shakespearean gravitas to Major Winchester. Joining MAS Times H in its 6th season as a replacement for the departed Frank Burns, Stiers faced the challenge of creating a new foil for Hawkeye and BJ that wouldn't simply replicate the previous dynamic. He succeeded brilliantly, crafting a complex character whose snobbery masked genuine surgical brilliance, and, eventually, a carefully hidden, compassionate streak. His performance earned him 2 Emmy nominations during his 6 seasons on the show. Stiers' contribution to MAS Times H extended beyond his on-screen performance. A trained musician who later in life conducted symphony orchestras, Stiers helped shape Winchester's love of classical music, a character trait that produced some of the show's most poignant moments, including the memorable Christmas episode where Winchester shares his family's chocolate with orphaned children while introducing them to Mozart. Behind the scenes, cast members described Stiers as intellectually curious and something of a perfectionist, much like Winchester himself, though without the character's arrogance. On the 3rd of March 2018, Stiers passed away at his home in Newport, Oregon, at the age of 75. His agent, Mitchell Stubbs, confirmed that the cause was complications from bladder cancer, a diagnosis Stiers had kept largely private until near the end. According to close friends, Stiers had been battling the disease for several years while continuing to work in voice acting and pursue his passion for orchestral music. His death was described as peaceful, with Stiers having put his affairs in order and said goodbye to those closest to him. The news of Stiers' passing shocked many fans who had been unaware of his illness, a reflection of the actor's intensely private nature. Tributes from his MAS Times H colleagues painted a picture of a complex man who, while sometimes reserved on set, showed great kindness and generosity in personal interactions. Alda tweeted, "David Ogden Stiers was a sensitive, intelligent, and talented actor and a witty, loving friend." Mike Farrell described working with Stiers as a master class in acting every single day, while Loretta Swit praised his wicked sense of humor that was often unexpected and always delightful. What many didn't know until after his death was that Stiers had been forced to live a closeted life during much of his career. In 2009, he had finally come out as gay at the age of 66, telling a journalist he could no longer hide that aspect of his identity despite fearing it might damage his career, particularly in family-oriented voice work for Disney. This revelation added another dimension to the challenges Stiers had faced throughout his life and career, making his achievements all the more impressive. A private memorial service in Newport, Oregon, reflected Stiers' love of music, with performances by members of the Newport Symphony Orchestra, which he had conducted numerous times. In lieu of flowers, his family requested donations to the orchestra's music education programs, a fitting legacy for an actor whose most beloved character found solace and expression through classical music. And while fans were still mourning this loss, news would soon break about another member of the MAS Times H family. Number 8. Gary Berghoff. As the innocent, teddy bear clutching Corporal Walter Radar O'Reilly, Gary Berghoff created one of television's most endearing characters, a young man who maintained his Midwestern values amid the chaos of war. Radar's premature departure in Season 8 left a hole in the 4077th that was never truly filled, but few realized the physical and emotional toll the role had taken on the actor who portrayed him. What led to Berghoff's final chapter after a life of diverse artistic pursuits? Born in Bristol, Connecticut in 1943, Berghoff was the only actor to reprise his role from the original MAS-H film for the television series. His portrayal of Radar, the company clerk with almost supernatural abilities to predict events before they happened quickly, made him a fan favorite. Berghoff brought vulnerability and innocence to the character, whose homesickness and devotion to his mother provided emotional anchors throughout the early seasons. His performance earned him an Emmy Award in 1977 and cemented Radar as one of television's most iconic characters. Despite his popularity, Berghoff made the difficult decision to leave MAS-H during its 8th season, appearing in just a handful of episodes before Radar received his discharge papers. The physical demands of the role, including long shooting days and the hunched posture he maintained to make Radar appear younger and smaller, had taken a toll on his health. Additionally, Berghoff wanted to spend more time with his family, having missed much of his daughter's early childhood due to the show's demanding schedule. His departure episode, Goodbye Radar, became one of the series' most emotional moments. On the 15th of April 2024, Berghoff passed away at his home in Northern California after battling a respiratory illness. He was 80 years old. According to family members, Berghoff had been dealing with health issues for several months but remained in good spirits, pursuing his passions for painting and environmental conservation until shortly before his death. His third wife, Elizabeth Bostrom, and his children were with him in his final days. The news of Berghoff's death triggered an outpouring of grief from MAS-H fans worldwide and heartfelt tributes from his former castmates. Alan Alda posted a moving message. Gary brought humanity and heart to every scene. Working with him was a joy because the sweetness of Radar reflected the genuine kindness of Gary himself. Loretta Swit, who had maintained a close friendship with Berghoff over the decades, shared, "Gary's gentle spirit touched everyone he met, both on and off screen. The world has lost a truly beautiful soul." What many fans didn't realize was the diverse artistic life Berghoff had created after leaving MAS-H. A talented jazz drummer, wildlife painter, and inventor who held several patents, he had deliberately chosen a path away from Hollywood's spotlight. He became an advocate for environmental causes, particularly wildlife conservation, and often used his artistic platforms to raise awareness about endangered species. In interviews, he expressed no regrets about leaving fame behind, saying he measured success by personal fulfillment rather than public recognition. A memorial service held in California featured both MAS-H colleagues and representatives from the environmental organizations Berghoff had supported. In lieu of flowers, his family requested donations to wildlife conservation groups, a reflection of the causes that had become central to his post-acting life. The service included a display of his nature paintings and a jazz performance in honor of his musical talents. But while fans mourned this fresh loss, questions began to surface about the surviving cast members. Number 9. Edward Winter. As the recurring character Colonel Samuel Flagg, Edward Winter created one of television's most memorable paranoid intelligence officers, a man who appeared and disappeared with theatrical flourish, convinced communist infiltration lurked behind every corner of the 4077th. Though only appearing in 7 episodes throughout the series, Winter's scene-stealing performance made Flagg an unforgettable presence, whose catchphrases became fan favorites. But the actor's own final mission would conclude far from the spotlight he once commanded. Born in Ventura, California in 1937, Winter brought intense energy and commitment to the role of Colonel Flagg. A classically trained actor with Broadway experience, he approached the character with deadly seriousness, which made Flag's absurd paranoia and spy antics all the more hilarious. His catchphrases, "The wind blows and the eagle flies on Friday," and "My name is not Flag," became instant classics. Though not a regular cast member, Winter's appearances were always highlights, with viewers eagerly anticipating Flag's increasingly outlandish undercover disguises and conspiracy theories. On set, Winter was known for his professionalism and the stark contrast between his intense character and his relaxed, friendly demeanor between takes. Alda once remarked that Winter could switch from normal conversation to Flag's intensity in the blink of an eye, while Mike Farrell noted that Ed approached even the most ridiculous Flag scenarios with the commitment of a Shakespearean actor tackling Hamlet. This dedication elevated what could have been a one-note character into a complex, albeit comically paranoid, military figure. On the 8th of March 2001, Winter passed away at the age of 63 inches, Woodland Hills, California. According to his family, the cause was Parkinson's disease, which he had battled for several years while maintaining a low public profile. The progressive nature of the condition had forced Winter to retire from acting in the mid-1990 seconds, and he spent his final years focused on family and private pursuits. His death received relatively little media attention at the time, reflecting his status as a character actor rather than a household name. When news of Winter's passing eventually reached the wider MASH fan community, tributes emphasized how much impact he had made with limited screen time. A statement from 20th Century Fox Television noted that Edward Winter created one of MASH's most distinctive recurring characters. Colonel Flag embodied the absurdity of blind patriotism and militarism that the show sought to critique. Fellow MAS Times H guest stars recalled his generosity on set, particularly his willingness to help younger actors navigate the established ensemble. What many viewers didn't realize was the breadth of Winter's career beyond Colonel Flag. A versatile character actor, he appeared in numerous television shows throughout the 1,970 seconds and 80 seconds, including Policewoman, The A-Team, and Soap. He also had a successful voice acting career, lending his distinctive voice to animated projects and commercials. Friends described him as humble about his achievements and someone who viewed acting as a craft rather than a path to celebrity. Though no public memorial service was held at Winter's request, several MASH cast members reportedly sent private condolences to his family. The actor's legacy lives on primarily through Colonel Flag, a character that continues to entertain new generations discovering MASH through streaming platforms. Winter's portrayal perfectly captured the show's ability to critique military mindsets while maintaining compassion for the individuals caught up in bureaucratic systems. But as fans reflected on this loss, another beloved recurring character would soon face health challenges of his own. Number 10. G. W. Bailey. As the conniving, lazy, but ultimately lovable Staff Sergeant Luther Rizzo, G. W. Bailey created one of MASH's most memorable recurring characters during the later seasons. Heading the motor pool with minimal effort and maximum schemes, Rizzo brought Southern charm and calculated inefficiency to the 4077th. Bailey's portrayal added yet another distinctive personality to the camp's ecosystem, but his journey after MASH would take unexpected turns, both professionally and personally. Born in Port Arthur, Texas, in 1944, Bailey brought authentic Southern mannerisms to Sergeant Rizzo, drawing on his Texas upbringing to create the character's distinctive drawl and laid-back attitude. Though not joining the series until Season 8, Bailey appeared in 14 episodes through the final season, quickly establishing Rizzo as a fan-favorite supporting character. His comedic timing and chemistry with the main cast, particularly his antagonistic relationship with Major Winchester, added fresh dynamics to the show's later years. After MASH concluded, Bailey enjoyed a successful career, playing authority figures ironically the opposite of the authority-avoiding Rizzo. He became well known for roles such as Captain Harris in the Police Academy films and, later, Lieutenant Provenza on The Closer and its spin-off Major Crimes. This career renaissance in his 60 Seconds and 70 Seconds gave Bailey a level of recognition that surpassed even his MASH fame, introducing him to new generations of viewers and showcasing his range as an actor. On the 28th of July, 2023, Bailey passed away at his home in Los Angeles after a brief illness. He was 79 years old. According to statements from his family, Bailey had been diagnosed with an aggressive form of cancer just months earlier. Despite treatment attempts, the disease progressed rapidly. His daughter and grandchildren were with him in his final days. The actor had kept his diagnosis private, with even some former colleagues unaware of his condition until shortly before his death. The news of Bailey's passing triggered tributes from both his MAS Times H colleagues and his more recent co-stars. Alda posted a heartfelt message. "GW brought so much life and humor to our final seasons. He could steal a scene with just a raised eyebrow." Kyra Sedgwick, his co-star from The Closer, called him the heart and soul of our show, both on screen and off. What became clear from these remembrances was how universally beloved Bailey was among his peers across different decades and productions. What many fans didn't know was Bailey's extraordinary commitment to pediatric cancer charity work. After his goddaughter died of cancer in the 1,980 seconds, Bailey became deeply involved with the Sunshine Kids Foundation, eventually serving as its executive director. He used his celebrity status to raise millions of dollars for children with cancer, organizing special events that brought joy to young patients. This philanthropic work became as important to Bailey as his acting career, perhaps more so, and represented his true legacy beyond the screen. A memorial service in Los Angeles brought together an unusual mix of attendees: MAS Times H veterans, police procedural castmates, and dozens of families touched by Bailey's charity work. Rather than focusing solely on his acting achievements, speakers highlighted how Bailey had channeled his personal grief into helping others. The service concluded with a video montage of Bailey interacting with Sunshine Kids beneficiaries over the decades, moments that friends said brought him more satisfaction than any acting award. As one colleague noted, GW found his true calling in bringing happiness to children facing their toughest battles. But while fans processed this loss, they would soon learn of the passing of another beloved character actor from the series. Number 11. Kelly Nakahara. As Nurse Kelly Yamato, Kelly Nakahara brought warmth and dedication to the 4077th nursing staff throughout most of the series' run. Though beginning as a background character, Nakahara's natural charm eventually earned her more prominent storylines, most memorably in the episode "Hey, Look Me Over," where she confronted Hawkeye about his failure to see her as more than just another nurse. Her journey from extra to beloved cast member represents one of MAS Times H's most heartwarming behind-the-scenes stories. Born in Oahu, Hawaii, in 1948, Nakahara had no professional acting experience when she was cast on MAS Times H. A visual artist who had moved to San Francisco to pursue painting, she was discovered by the show's producers and initially hired for background work. Her authentic warmth and quick humor soon caught the attention of writers and fellow cast members, leading to increased screen time and eventually speaking roles. Though credited under various names throughout the series, including Nurse Abel, Nurse Charlie, and Lieutenant Nakahara. She is best remembered simply as Nurse Kelly, appearing in nearly 200 episodes, more than many of the show's main cast members. On set, Nakahara was known for her positive attitude and ability to bring levity to long shooting days. Alda and Mike Farrell both credited her with maintaining morale among the supporting cast. Her presence added authentic diversity to the 4077th, reflecting the actual demographic makeup of medical units during the Korean War. In later seasons, writers began creating more substantial moments for her character, including the aforementioned confrontation with Hawkeye and several scenes showcasing her nursing expertise during intense operating room sequences. On the 16th of February 2020, Nakahara passed away at her home in Pasadena, California, surrounded by family. She was 72 years old. According to her daughter, Nalani Coleman, Nakahara had been diagnosed with cancer just months earlier. The disease progressed rapidly despite treatment efforts. Her husband of 52 years, David Wallet, was by her side during her final days. The news came as a shock to many fans and former colleagues who had seen Nakahara at MAS Times H reunions in previous years, where she had appeared to be in good health. Tributes from the MAS Times H family highlighted Nakahara's genuine kindness and the authenticity she brought to the series. Loretta Swit released a statement saying, "Kelly brought light and laughter everywhere she went. Working with her was pure joy." Alda tweeted, "Kelly was a beautiful person inside and out. She brought warmth, humanity, and authenticity to every scene." These sentiments were echoed by many crew members who noted that Nakahara's lack of formal acting training became her greatest strength, allowing her to bring natural reactions to scenes dominated by experienced performers. What many fans didn't realize was the rich, artistic, and life Nakahara built after MAS Times H. Returning to her first love of watercolor painting, she established herself as a respected artist in Pasadena's creative community. Her vibrant, colorful works, often depicting flowers and landscapes, were displayed in galleries throughout Southern California. Additionally, she became deeply involved in local arts organizations, helping to establish the Town Singers, a choral group, and working with the Pasadena Playhouse. These creative pursuits brought her immense satisfaction in her post-television years. A memorial service held at Pasadena's All Saints Episcopal Church featured displays of Nakahara's artwork alongside photographs from her MASH years. In lieu of flowers, her family requested donations to arts education programs for underprivileged youth, a cause Nakahara had championed throughout her later life. The service concluded with a performance by the Town Singers, the choral group she had helped found. As one speaker noted, Kelly brought the same joy to painting and music that she brought to our television screens, a joyful spirit that will continue to inspire through her art. And yet, as fans mourned this loss, the MASH family would face another departure. Number 12, Timothy Brown. As Captain Oliver Harmon, Spearchucker Jones, Timothy Brown had a brief but notable presence in the early episodes of MAS Times H. A talented neurosurgeon and former professional football player within the show's universe, Jones was part of the original bunkmates in The Swamp alongside Hawkeye, Trapper, and Frank Burns. Though Brown's character disappeared after just a handful of episodes, his contribution to the show's initial ensemble deserves recognition, as does his fascinating life beyond the 4077th. Born in Richmond, Indiana, in 1937, Brown brought unique authenticity to his MASH role, as he himself had been a professional football player before turning to acting. After playing as a running back and kick returner for the Green Bay, Packers, Philadelphia Eagles, and Baltimore Colts from 1959 to 1968. Brown transitioned to Hollywood, appearing in films like MASH, 1970, Nashville, 1975, and blaxploitation classics like Black Gun, 1972. When the television adaptation of MASH began, Brown was one of 3 actors to reprise their film roles, alongside Gary Berghoff and G. Wood. Brown's character appeared in only the first 6 episodes of Season 1, before disappearing without explanation. The show's producers later explained that they had learned that no black surgeons served in MASH units during the Korean War, and decided to write out the character rather than perpetuate historical inaccuracy. This explanation has been debated by historians, who note that there were indeed black surgeons in Korea, though they were rare. Whatever the true reason, Brown's departure meant the show lost a character who had provided both medical expertise and athletic prowess to the 4077th Ensemble. On the 4th of April 2020, Brown passed away in Palm Springs, California, at the age of 82. According to his family, the cause was complications from dementia, which he had been battling for several years. The news received relatively little media attention at the time, partially overshadowed by the early days of the COVID-19 pandemic and partially reflecting Brown's brief tenure on the series. When word did spread through the Mass Times H fan community, many newer viewers were surprised to learn about this early character who had been largely forgotten in the show's long history. Though few of the original Mass Times H cast had maintained connections with Brown due to his early departure, those who remembered working with him spoke highly of his professionalism and good humor on set. Alda mentioned in a podcast that Tim was a natural athlete and a natural actor. He brought a different energy to those early episodes. The NFL community also mourned Brown's passing, with the Philadelphia Eagles organization releasing a statement honoring his contributions to the team in the 1,960 seconds. What made Brown's story particularly remarkable was the diversity of his achievements across multiple fields. After leaving MASH, he continued acting through the 1,990 seconds while also pursuing business ventures, including restaurant ownership. He had also released music albums, tapping into yet another creative outlet. In a rare interview years after MASH, Brown expressed no bitterness about his character's early elimination, saying he was grateful for the experience and proud to have been part of the show's beginning. No public memorial service was held due to pandemic restrictions, but former teammates and entertainment colleagues shared tributes online. The NFL included Brown in their annual In Memoriam segment during a broadcast, while classic television organizations noted his place in TV history. Though his time at the 4077th was brief, Timothy Brown remains part of the foundation upon which one of television's greatest shows was built. As we look back at these beloved performers who brought the 4077th MASH unit to life, what stands out is not just their remarkable talent, but their humanity. Behind the iconic characters and memorable one-liners were real people who faced their final chapters with the same dignity and courage their on-screen counterparts displayed in fictional Korea. From McLean Stevenson's warm, fatherly presence to Gary Berghoff's earnest innocence, each actor contributed something irreplaceable to the tapestry of one of television's greatest achievements. Mass Times H was never just about war or medicine. It was about how people maintain their humanity in inhuman circumstances. The show reminded us that humor, compassion, and connection are essential survival tools in our darkest hours. The actors we've lost embodied these values not just on screen, but in their real lives, through their charitable work, artistic pursuits, and the kindness they showed to colleagues and fans alike. The 4077th may have been disbanded when the armistice was signed, but the lessons and laughter live on in reruns, streaming platforms, and the hearts of generations of viewers. These departed cast members have achieved a rare form of immortality through their work, bringing comfort, joy, and perspective to audiences they will never meet, in years they will never see. If you're honoring the memory of a favorite MAS Times H character today, leave a heart and share your favorite moment.